Okay, here's our garden trellis. It's made out of a cattle panel and EMT tubing, and it is the width of our garden bed that's using these concrete blocks for corners and the wood in between. What I like about this is that it's utilizing the holes in the concrete blocks for support. So what I have is a rebar just going through the block, but I added these plates to it so that it provides something for the EMT to set on, like that, so that with the weight of whatever's growing on it just doesn't push into the ground. Then the other thing we have are these MakerPipe fittings, and I'll leave a link in the description below to where you can buy those. And that just gives you a way to hook all of the EMT tubing together. Then I've also used metal zip ties, and you can get these off of Amazon as well. And they're stainless steel coated zip tie, so you don't have to worry about them getting damaged by the UV and then just breaking. And if nothing else, they provide a nice temporary kind of connection while you make something more permanent. We come around the side here with me. So here I'm using a cushion clamp with the inside cushion removed, and I'll show you what those look like too. And that provides a really permanent type connection. So anyway, that's what we're going to build, and I'm just going to take you through it here with me as I build the next one. So the critical thing, you're going to need to know how wide you want to make the arch, and so you just have to measure that. So I've set out the tape measure here, and center to center it measures out to be pretty much 42, we'll call it 42.25 inches. So then we'll take that back inside, and I'll show you the calculator that tells you how to make the bends for the arch itself. So you see on this one, these marks going up and over the arch here. The calculator that I'm going to show you will tell you what this span has to be, what this distance is between each one of these bends. And each bend is 10 degrees, and that'll give you a nice smooth bend. That'll all make sense, I think, when I start showing you on the bender on how that works and with the calculator. And so we'll go do that now and then come back out. Okay, so I wanted to show you a couple things here. We'll hop on the computer, and just sometimes having a drawing really just kind of helps, at least it does me. So I went into AutoCAD real quick and just made a quick sketch of what we're trying to do. So the green arch here at the top, so that's what we're trying to make right now, right? And so a couple of goals I had for the project was that I wanted it to be at least 7 feet high, so I had ample clearance under it. And I wanted to use a cattle panel for this without cutting it if possible. So one of the things we know is that it's 42.25 inches across from post to post. Okay, so then that's the same as the diameter. So then jumping into the bend calculator from MakerPipe, and they have a way better explanation on their website on about how to bend this tubing than what I do, and this really handy calculator. So what you do is you take the 42.25, you take your measurement, whatever you want that diameter to be, okay? And you enter it into their calculator there. Then you have to, this is set up so that you can make really large arches or circles or whatever you want to do, just how many segments, and you're only limited by the length of the EMT conduit. So this case, we're making a single half of a circle, one arch. So we're going to go with the 2 segment options. So just by putting in your diameter, how many segments you want, then you get this number here, 66.37 inches. And you see that matches my CAD drawing. So I drew this in here, then I had it dimension that, and that 66.37, that matches. Okay, so that's a nice indicator when things like that work. Why that's important is if you were, say, doing a really big arch, then you would want to know, okay, how many lengths of EMT conduit do I need? So they're in 10-foot length standard, so that's 120 inches. So we know that we can do this arch with 1 and have some left over. Okay, just scrolling through their calculator then. So next thing you got to decide is what angle are you bending with the bender. Now you can bend it at 10, 22, 30, 45, or 60 degree increments. And you can imagine if you bent this all the way to 45 degrees or 60 degrees, you're going to have a really angular, kind of not smooth bend, right? It's going to be really kind of, how do you say it? It's really segmented. It's going to be very obvious, okay? So you want to minimize how many bend, or minimize the angle that you want. So every 10 degrees, you're going to get a nice smooth arch. So then the calculator, using that information, it says, okay, you're going to have 18 bends for this 1 segment of EMT tubing, okay? And you're going to bend it every 3.69 inches. So now that'll become apparent when I actually get out there and show you how to bend this. Or if you watch their video, you'll see that too. So that's the information that you need in order to bend this. So jot that down, and we'll go back out and actually bend that. But just to show you a couple more things here with the drawing. So we got the 66.37, and so we know that the arch is going to be that length. Well, my other goal, like I said, was to use the full cattle panel, okay, and to be at least 7 feet high. So if we know a cattle panel is 16 feet long, right? So that's 192 inches. So subtract out the 66.37, and then that gives you the remainder that you have to work with. So let me do that real quick. So 192. So then each leg has to be 62.82, right? So see how I did that? I took the 192 inches, subtracted out 66.37, and I was left with 125 inches, 125.6 inches. And so then if you just divide that by 2, so you know the dimension of each leg, then that's 62.81. And if you add that all up, then that will equal the 192, or 16 feet. Okay. All right. So that'll give you this layout. A smarter way to do this. So this one here, I have 3 pieces of EMT tubing, and you'll see that if I go to bend this, then I'm going to have a leftover, and I'll show you that later in the video. And a smart way to do this would be to do it something like this, to where you have your EMT tubing represented in green here. It's the same layout. It's just that you're using, in this case, you're using a full stick of tubing, 120 inches. So the 66.37 and 26.82 times that. So you got 120 inches in length. So that way you don't have any waste. It's an efficient design. The only trick with that is you have to really know where your bending tool is positioned, and that you're properly placing all of that to get all of this pretty accurate. And first time bending, and even me, I've bent a few of these already, that'd be a hard trick to do. So for me, it's easier just to bend the arch I want and cut it at the tangent point and call it good. Plus, you can put a coupler there. I'll show you in the field on how we're doing that. So yeah, you could do that, and then you'd have two 36-inch pieces and accomplish the same thing as this one. So either way, but this is the one we're going to go build right now. Okay, so let me first show you some of the things that you're going to need. So first you're going to need your dimensions that you got from the computer. So just a quick review, we're going to build this one arch. It's going to be 66.37 inches around it. We're going to have 18 segments. Each one of those is 3.69 inches or 3 11/16. And one of the things that I did, instead of having to use a tape measure each time and hold that along the pipe and measure, is just make yourself a little cheater. Say on the back of your notepad or piece of cardboard, or you could make some other similar device. Then you just hold this along and mark it as you go. So I'll show you how to do that in a second. You'll need some marking pens. So what we're going to do is draw a control line down the middle of the tubing, and then we'll mark off our 18 segments and the measuring tape, like I said. You'll need a square or something to help you mark that line down the middle of the tubing. And here I've got it laid out just in this control joint on the patio, just to keep it from rolling away on me. Then you'll need your bender. So make sure you have one that's for 1/2 inch EMT. And then I have this pipe of ice I took off of my workbench, and that's going to help me hold it while I'm doing the bending. I'll show you that as we get going. So I think that's everything. I'm going to go ahead and set this up in the tripod and show you how we do this. Okay, so using this square and marker, I'm just going to draw a straight line, straight as I can get it, going down the center of the tubing. And what that's going to serve is a couple things. It's going to serve as our kind of control line for this. So as we're bending, we want to make sure that line is oriented in the same position for each bend, whether that's up or sideways or whatever, just so that you can see it while you're doing the bend. You don't want the pipe rotating on you while you're doing the bend, otherwise you're going to get a weird twist in it. So we're going to put that on there, and then it also serves as a line that we're going to put our spacing for our 3 11/16 or whatever it was. I don't have my notepad over there. We're going to put our spacing on there. So first, let's go ahead and mark this out. I just have a pink pen. Okay, that came out pretty good. So something like that. Should have taken that label off. Just have that marked all the way down. Okay, so now then we'll do our spacing. All right, so with my little cheater here that I made, what I'm going to do is come in 1 foot from the end of it, just so that I have a little extra wiggle room, something to work with here. So 1 foot, that's going to be my first mark. All right, and then we just go down the line using this and we make a mark. Okay, so now I have 18 segments lined up here. And one of the things really makes it helpful when you put it in the bender is to have these lines where you can see them not only from the top, but also on the side. So we're just going to go and wrap this around down the side a little bit. And we're going to be making 2 of these, so might as well mark them both up right now. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the center line on this again, and then I'm going to use the one that I just marked up as a guide for this one, and that way they'll both be the same. Okay, so I'll show you what I got set up here. So there's my tubing, and now I'm holding it in the pipe vise over there, and that's mostly just to keep it from spinning or anything while I'm doing this. Okay, and if you have a helper, that helper can hold that too. So I have my tube bender here, and so what we have to do, we'll show you here, this arrow has to line up with this line on each one of the segments when you bend it. So you just thread this through here, and then you'll press your foot down on this and while you're pulling this pipe, and that will make the bend. So here's these markings on here. These are for the angles that we were talking about earlier. So we're going to do a 10-degree bend. So what you do is you bend this until it's parallel with the pipe as you're bending it. And I'll show you that. It'll hopefully be clearer here in a second when we actually start doing it. I'm going to take a few practices for it with you. Go ahead and put this in. It's going to take a few practice runs probably. So you might even want to test it on a smaller piece of tubing before you go full scale, and that way you don't waste it. So what I'm hoping you can see is we're lining up this blue line here with this arrow. Okay. Then you just hold that in place. Oh, and one other thing. It's not necessary, but I just want to check everything as I go. So I'm going to use this angle gauge, and I'll just put on the tubing as I go here, and we'll zero it out so that I know when my bender has moved 10 degrees. It just serves as a check. And I'll probably actually bend it a little past 10 degrees so that there's a little bit of spring back, but you don't want to go too far. Okay, let's try one. So there's that line. I'm just mostly stepping on my foot or stepping with my foot while I'm pulling back. You see that's going there. Let's see. So I probably went to about 12 degrees. Like I said, there's a little spring back. And there we go.
So let's just do the next one. Like I said, and make sure that you're doing this in line, trying to keep everything lined up. Okay. Be a little bit tedious. Okay, so there's the first one built. And so be like that. So you see I'm lining up more or less on that bottom line down there. And this one here. And there you see, you got your arch made. So now then we'll just do the next one. Okay, you know you did pretty good when you take it out and it lies nice and flat on the concrete. So there's very little twist in it, just a little bit. And that'll probably come out. When I cut it on the ends, you probably won't even notice. So that one, pretty happy with. All right, see that one is a little bit wonky. It got a little twist in it somehow. But overall, it's the same shape. I think when I go ahead and trim this, I said I'm going to trim them at that last line right there. That's where the bend comes down and is tangent with the post portion. Anyway, then straight across, same thing. I'm just going to trim it there and then use a coupling to go ahead and fasten it to the posts that I have out in the garden. So anyway, that's how you do that. Okay, so here's the two arches cut down to their final dimensions. And you see they match up with each other pretty well. So happy with that. And there's a few little discrepancies between them, but overall for something that's pretty much just handmade here, I think that's pretty good. There's no real machine to that. So anyway, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to end the video here, and then the next step will be to actually assemble the arches, the garden arches with the trellis and using the cattle panel and all of that.